For this question, we were given a three-dimensional object shown, and we were asked to find, first of all, a front elevation looking in the direction of arrow A. That's in from this arrow here at the front. An end elevation looking in the direction of arrow B. That's looking in here from the side. And a plan looking in the direction of arrow C, projected from the front elevation. The plan will be looking down on top. So we'll just have a look at the three-dimensional object to see what those views will look like. So here I have my vertical plane, my horizontal plane, and my side vertical plane, and the object that I am going to draw is placed on top of the horizontal plane. So first of all, looking at for my front elevation, if I look in from the front, okay, that's what my view is going to look like. That view projected, and it's projected onto the vertical plane. If I look in secondly from my end view, that's what my view is going to look like. That view is projected onto your side vertical plane. And finally, in plan, if I look down on top, that's what my plan is going to look like. The outline of my plan will look like that. So to start this drawing, I'm going to draw a line across the center of the page, which will represent my XY line. This line could be done in heavy. So I'm going to lean heavy on the pencil. Marking an X on one side and a Y on the other side. Now, this XY line on my drawing represents the elevation, this line here on the base of the elevation. So my elevation sits on top of this XY line. Next, looking at the working drawing that we're given, I'm going to start with the elevation as shown here. So what I'm going to see as I look in from the direction of arrow A, I'm going to shade in red here. Right, likely, so I'm going to see that front face and this front face here as I look in from A. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a rectangle that is going to fit around that shape as I'm looking in for A. Now I can see from the drawing that the dimensions, the height of that rectangle is going to be 75 millimeters high, the distance from here to here in total, and the width is going to be 75 millimeters wide from here to here. So I'm going to measure that on my XY line, measure a distance across of 75 millimeters, take my lines vertically up the page using my set square on top of my T-square, again keeping all lines light for the meantime as these are only construction lines, and it's a height of 75 millimeters, so I'm going to measure that height up again using my set square. So given here is the size of the rectangle that this front view A is going to fit into, 75 high by 75 wide. Next I'm going to mark in my heights up along here, and I can see I have three separate heights for this level here, this level and the top level. Each of them are 25 millimeters apart, shown by our vertical dimension lines here. So using my set square, lining up 0 with the XY line, to measure up 25 millimeters 3 times, so 25, and add on another 25 will give me 50. I can take those lines horizontally across my page lightly. I'm going to continue those lines out past the rectangle. I'll explain why later. Okay, so I have my three vertical heights. Next, I'm going to measure my widths across the distance for this rectangle, and I can see here from the pictorial view that the first width is 50 and the second one is 25. So if I measure in 50 from the left hand side, take my line vertically down using my set square on top of my T-square. Again, very lightly. I'll have all of the construction lines needed to draw in my elevation from the front, shown here in my elevation. So next I'm going to go over this drawing heavy, so that the finished lines on the page stand out. So leaning heavier on the pencil this time, go over the outline of the drawing. That gives me my completed elevation shaded in here in red. The second part of the question asked me to draw an end elevation looking in the direction of arrow B. So I'm going to shade in my end elevation in green. So this here is what I'm going to see while I'm standing at arrow B looking inwards. I'm going to see this face here, this face also. So if we look back to our SolidWorks drawing, this is our elevation. If we go around to the side and look in at our end elevation, we'll notice that the heights do not change. The distance from here to here remains the same as I rotate around to my elevation view. Also, the height from the XY line to the top does not change. That height remains the same as it rotates around. So I can project, to save time, I can project my heights across, as I did already, from my elevation to my end elevation. So I have two of the heights here already. So I need to project across the third height, so I don't have to measure these 25mm distances up a second time. Now, generally I keep my end elevation about 20mm away from my elevation. So mark over 20, take your vertical line up, and I'm going to draw the sides of the rectangle that this end elevation is going to fit into. You can see here in total it's 50 wide, and I have my height of 75 already. So over 20 and 50 wide. Now the last construction line that I need to measure in is, I can see this part here in the middle of my pictorial drawing is a distance of 25mm in. So if I measure that anywhere on my end elevation, take my line vertically up using my set square, I now have all the construction lines necessary to complete that end elevation. So again, I'm going to lean harder on my pencil and go over what the finished view will look like. Right, finally, the last part of the question, I'm asked to take a plan looking in the direction of arrow C projected from the front elevation. So I'm going to shade that in blue. So as I'm looking down on top from arrow C, I'm going to see this surface here, this surface, and this surface. If we just have a look at our SolidWorks drawing, my plan is going to look like this. So I'll have one big rectangle to the side and two ones alongside it. So what you'll notice, if I go between my plan and my end elevation, you'll notice that the widths stay the same. These distances on my end elevation, these distances here on my end elevation will remain the same as the distance from here down on my plan. So next I'm going to mark a line off at 45 degrees from the side of my elevation nearest the plan. This is a construction line, so it can be kept light. And I'm going to take each of my distances from my elevation vertically down. Again, all construction lines. And from my end elevation, I'm going to take these distances vertically down to hit my 45-degree line and straight across, so I can complete the drawing and plan. So take the line down as far as the 45-degree line, vertically down, and then horizontally across. Same for each. That line vertically down and horizontally across. And without taking any measurements, I now have the widths and the lengths needed to complete my plan view here shown. So I can go over that finished plan heavy. I finished drawing my elevation, look in the direction of arrow A, my end elevation, look in the direction of arrow B, and my plan looking in the direction of arrow C.